Want to know something? Are you crocheting the best mittens you could possibly crochet? Are you staring at the window at a ladybug? Or are you annoying your family with random theories about fun fanfics that you found online? Well, you're probably in the right place. This is not enough questions. If you end up liking what you hear, tell a friend or leave a review.
Say welcome back, everyone.
Yay.
I am Julian. My name today is the Green Apple. Actually, I have not had this name in quite some time. With me is the unperceived Tyler.
That's me. Hi.
And then we're not alone today. We have the incredible Annie with us.
Yeah. Hi, everybody.
I will give the audience just a little knowledge about you, about how you wrote. I actually have not looked at the name of your book. I apologize for that.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. I will put it up here. It's called The Human Idea. Can you see that? There it is.
Yes.
It just came.
I love the book title. Yeah, the image on it is great.
Yeah.
Really cool.
It's called The Human Idea, Earth's Newest Ecosystem. It just came out on November 19th.
Ooh.
Oh,
Yay.
nice.
That's
Yes.
awesome.
The reason why I wanted to bring up your book is because I wanted to tell the audience is like, I read the last few, not the spark notes that you have at the end of every chapter, but the key concepts, I want to say. And they got me to actually want to read your book. So I will probably be purchasing that or getting that at some point in time. Can I say when? I am also broke. And it's also, as of right now, Christmas is around the corner. So, but how was your last days?
Oh, I get to start with my last 7 days. Well, yeah. I do have some bad news. My beloved mother, who was 102, passed away on November 25th. So just about less than 2 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
So it wasn't, she's 102 and she lived a fantastically wonderful life. And my mom had 12 children. I'm the 11th of those 12 children.
Oh, wow.
And she's just was a really amazing person. And so, of course, I miss her badly. And the last 7 days have been spent, trying to organize the funeral and with the siblings who are here. And even though my book came out like 2 weeks ago, I have not done anything on my book. That, I think, actually makes me feel good about myself in that my priorities were my mom and my family and rather than the book it's going to be there anyway, so that's been my last 7 days. We have family coming in because I have this huge family. Everybody's coming in from all over the country. So we'll be spending some time. The funeral is tomorrow. So we will spend time with them. So that's my last 7 days. Not really uplifting. The book is way more positive than that, but that's where I am.
Well, sorry for your loss.
Yeah.
Thank you for even continuing with this because we definitely could have rescheduled.
We could have rescheduled it.
I know, but I was just like, I don't need to undo that. Other people have rescheduled on me, and I did miss one podcast and I got it rescheduled, but it was just easier for me to do this. It's kind of easier to have something new and a little bit different to do than what I had to do for the last 7 days. So
understood. We really do appreciate you for that.
Sure. Well, and I appreciate you guys for giving me a little bit of a diversion. So thank you.
The perfect time to be silly. Go all out.
Oh no, we are very. We're kind of silly.
Yeah, I know. I listened to a couple of your podcasts and I did enjoy them very much.
That's good.
So good for you guys. You get to be who you get to be.
Yeah.
Tyler, what about you? Your last 7 days?
Well, last 7 days. Well, I guess, in the spirit of transparency, I've also been having a very interesting last 7 days too, because I've just been doing a lot of things to take care of my dad before last week. And then last week, he had to be like hospitalized like right before Thanksgiving. So yeah, it's just been kind of, I guess my journey after my grandmother passed has just been more like, take looking after things with my dad and things like that. And like more family members were like, well, I didn't even know it was like, that serious and that you were helping him with so much stuff. So they've been like really supportive and like trying to help me with other things so I don't have to put so much on my plate anymore. So I've been very thankful for that. So yeah, that's been happening. I've actually been in my house now for a couple days, which I always appreciate. Cause but I like how you said where it's like, cause when my grandmother passed, it was the same day I actually got this place that I'm in now. So like I barely have any furniture in here. So,
Yeah.
but I think it's a good way to think about it. Like, my priorities are straight because, family first. So
Right.
yeah.
Right.
And it's like, it's still here and like it's not gonna go away. And I still get to have kind of like a little thing to look forward to in the back of your head where you're like, hey, at
Right.
least like now I get to like decorate and I think about those things and
Right.
like
Or a nice
I kind of
sweater.
get to plan out like what I want to do, like how I want my life to be shaped by where I live now. So it's kind of nice.
Mhm. Good.
Nice.
Good.
Yeah.
I guess it's on me.
Yep. Your
Yes,
turn,
your turn.
Julianne. Green apple. It's your turn.
Oh god.
So my last 7-ish days, well, it was Thanksgiving, so I went back home, and I was just surrounded by like my immediate family minus my sister. She decided to stay in Atlanta just because she didn't want to travel and she had something else, not something else to do, but she was invited to a different Thanksgiving, so she wanted to do that. But let's see. And I'm just so glad to hear you guys had family around you dealing with your tough times, because I for like really over a year now, I've been dealing with my own like friend issues and everything, and I finally got to a place where I'm like, it's okay to have let them go. I'm still care for them and everything, but it's just I accepted it, and I'm like, all right, I'm able to joke about this and everything, move on. But other than that, like I said, I was with my family, and then I appreciate my mom's friends' family also inviting me to their Thanksgiving dinner like the day after. I had a great time, and so now I know someone else. Well, not even know someone else. I got to meet up with an old friend that I haven't got to see in the past, let's just say 2 years almost, just because I've been running around doing all types of travel. Like I have not been sitting down for a lot. But yeah, that's really my last 7-ish days.
Yeah.
Where is home?
It was
Where is home?
home from Jacksonville, Florida. So it's
nice.
well, depending on traffic, it's like a 5 to 6 hour drive for me.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, but
Nice.
that's home for me.
Good.
And I'm actually going back again for Christmas. Like when I say I'm on the move, I am always on the move.
That's true.
Do you like to travel then? Is that your thing? I mean, do you like to travel?
Yeah, it's sometimes I like to travel and sometimes it's I need to travel. Ever since being in Atlanta, I've been traveling really all throughout the country for the most part. And my parents kind of don't understand that because they always ask me, so where have you met anyone here? Do you have any friends here? Where's a girlfriend? And I'm like, please understand, I have been on the move and not in a consistent place since being in Atlanta. But
yeah,
Makes sense.
in time, it will happen at some point.
yeah.
Nice.
Well, that's really nice because I'm a homebody. I would do all remote stuff if I could. I just like my routine and my life, and that's what I like to do. And travel is makes me get nervous.
See, I like to work from home, but when I'm stuck in the house, I go off the walls. It makes me go haywire because that's actually what I did today. I was working from home And since I can't take my work laptop outside my apartment, I get stir crazy in my apartment. I really do need to just be outside in a different environment.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. I feel like I'm like I can be in the house for like long periods of time, but then also I do like to like plan trips. So
Okay.
yeah,
You're a
I'll
good
do
balance. Yeah.
both. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I like being out every once in a while when it's like planned and
Yeah.
for my like actual like fun enjoyment times, but like anything other than that, I'm like I'm in the house.
Right. Well, there's three
Right.
people. We have three diametrically opposite ways to live our lives. Isn't that funny?
It is.
Yep. And I'm using that as a segue because I think that's a great way to ask about the question because it's all about hearing people's different perspectives and everything. Thank you, Tyler. I love these banners. Let's go.
I'm not as on my banners as I normally am, but
that's perfect. So, Annie, what is the question?
Well, the question of the day is, I have it written down here, so I'm going to go and find it again so I get the words right. But it is, can nature provide a guide so humans can coexist peacefully? That's the question. Can nature serve as a guide for human peaceful coexistence?
I really like this question. This is actually a question you brought up. Would you like to answer it first?
Yes. The answer is yes. So there you go. Now you have to read the book to find out why. No. The answer is yes, but it's simple at one point and complicated at another level. But the reason why we can learn from nature is that we've evolved from nature. So everything we do comes from the same forces that created cells and animals and trees and humans. And so if we look at how animals have survived for billions of years, then we can get a clue as to how to successfully survive as humans. But humans are very different. Even though we've evolved from animals, we have a very different capability. And that is that we can think, we can create ideas. And that takes everything that animals have done and shifts it a little bit. So the first step is to understand how animals work, just non-humans work. And we get a clear idea of how they work because they're all very consistent. And then we look at humans and we kind of understand, we have to understand why humans are different. And then we can start to apply and say, well, okay, now we have the two pieces of the puzzle. We have how animals work and we have how humans are different. Can we put together how humans can exist so that they act in a peaceful manner towards each other? And the answer is yes, but it's not completely obvious. And I think, to me, now that I've kind of gone through this process, it's obvious to me, but it's not obvious because it would have been thought of years ago, and it's not. So that's kind of interesting to me.
well, I was kind of thinking about it because I feel like people have like mirrored more so the idea of like the animal kingdom in like the food chain type of system. So it's kind of funny, like spinning that on its head and thinking of it from a more peaceful aspect, because I had to really think about this because I was like, people do like they use a lot of comparisons to animals
Right.
in a lot of ways. Like, like at least the concept, even though now I understand this notion to not be accurate, of like, alpha male or like,
Right. Competition,
yeah,
kill or be
and things like
killed,
that.
eat or be eaten.
Yeah.
Yes.
Doggy
Like
Dog's World.
people, yeah, and people were always doing stuff like that. And
Right.
so I was thinking about when you were saying like, yeah, we could use it from a more peaceful aspect. It was just making me think of like, I don't know, all the ways people use it as like we're turning animalistic. And
Right.
all of nature is not like that.
Competitive.
That's not the only aspect.
Right. Well, what's interesting is when you look at the animal world, you see only the competitive part. You see animals that kill things to eat, or they run after stuff, right? Or these animals do not communicate with each other. The tiger and the elephant can't say, hey, how's it going today? And they meet at the waterfront and say, let's go kill the okapi together or whatever. They don't do that. They can't do that. They've evolved like this, outward, differently. So they don't have that ability. But what we don't notice is that the level directly below the animal is what they're made of. Every animal is made entirely of cells. Everyone, including you. You have 35 trillion cells in your body. And all those cells collaborate. They all work together to keep you alive and to keep the other cells alive. And this is the level that we don't see because it's not obvious. We see the tiger. We don't see the tiger's 300 trillion cells. We see Tyler. We don't see her 35 trillion cells. So we assume that Tyler is the only thing that exists, not the 35 trillion cells underneath that are all working together to keep Tyler alive. And that's the perspective I looked at. Instead of just looking at the competition, how do the cells collaborate? Because cells are the only real living thing in the world. You're just a collaboration of cells. And so if we look at how cells work together and understand that, because they've been doing this for billions of years, then we can get an idea of what coexistence, what peaceful coexistence can look like. You aren't going to see it from looking at the animals down because you won't see it. You have to look at it from the cell up in order to see how they collaborate. And once you do that, it opens up this new view.
See, that's actually kind of what I was thinking of when I heard the question, because I'm like, yes, we can learn from the animal kingdom and everything, but it's more so in the spectrum of harmony, because I think about if mankind didn't invent everything, cars, pollutants and everything, there would be a balance in the world to where there would be just the right amount. So, for example, if the bear eats up all the deers, or I think that's how that works, the bear slowly dies off because it ate up all its food source, which gives the deers more time to repopulate and everything. So I think I was looking at it more of a symbiotic system, because even with, what is it? I know there's like some birds or something that eat that like live on, like, not live, but work with crocodiles to like pick out their like scraps of foods and everything. Like it's a balance of the source. So that's how I thought of the question.
Yeah, there's a lot of mutual benefit in nature, where species have evolved together, like bees and flowers, right? They each benefit each other to make sure both sets of species survive. And that happens because, they've had billions of years to sort of, those are those animals that practice that, and it helped them to survive, keep those behaviors going forward. And the ones that tried to do it a different way may not have survived. And we don't even know what they're like. We don't even know what they did, because 99% of all species have died for whatever reasons we don't know of. But to your point is that what you're saying is that before humans, nature met its own equilibrium points, right? It balanced itself until something like an environmental, like a meteor hit, and then all hell breaks loose. And then it has to recalibrate again. But humans really did come and change the behavior, change the whole dynamic of the world, because humans have this brain. And with the brain, we have ideas. We can think of things and then we can act on them. So I can think of an idea and build a building. Somebody can think of an idea and build clothing. Somebody can think of an idea and write a book. And all those ideas then can be passed on, and they evolve also, just like life forms, but they're ideas, and they evolve with this interaction of people. But I read Charles Darwin's Origin of Species in order to write my book. He died in 1882, but his book is still here and it's still relevant to me, and I can do that. So, but humans have really changed the balance of nature, because we can manipulate nature and our environment in such a way that animals really can't. They've never been able to do it. We took this leap so that we're the only ones in what I call the idea sphere, which is an ecosystem of ideas that we then we're physically still people, and we have to interact with resources, but we use those ideas, we create things, and then those things can evolve. I mean, we started with speaking, and then we turned to writing, and then we got books, and then we have radio and TV, and now we have satellites and computers. That started from us just speaking to each other. And now it's evolved over these years because people can, anytime we can create an idea and put it into some form that stays around, where people from a later time can look at it and examine it, they can build on it. And that's how ideas evolve, just like animals evolved. And that has changed the world. And we have now, I think what we're in danger of is disrupting the equilibrium to the point where we might wreck our physical environment, to the point where we might not survive. And we would be the only species in history who have engineered our own demise if that happens. We're the only ones who could do that. I think, if humans do go extinct by their own hand, other animals will survive, and life will go on. And maybe an animal with a big brain like this will evolve again because things move that way, and maybe they'll do better than we do. But
that actually reminds me of two things, because I remember reading something that says humans are the only creature on the planet that will create their own demise. And then they went into you will never see a mouse build its own mousetrap.
Right, right. And yeah, we built nuclear bombs, right?
Yep.
Right.
And then speaking on the nuclear bomb situation, I also know, animals, everything's going to adapt, because with, I think it is the nuclear facility Chernobyl, that there's animals and creatures that's starting to live in that area and becoming more radioactive resistant. So
well, what's really happening is, so radiation is really interesting, because what it does is it's a level of energy, these really small wavelengths that can interfere with cells, because they can actually interfere with cells and create mutations in a cell, right? And a lot of the Earth is a radioactive planet. It's got a low level of radiation everywhere, and part of the mutations that cells have is from radiation. And sometimes, and some radiation, the typical thing is that lots of changes will occur, only a few will survive those changes. And what you're seeing at Chernobyl is a bunch of radiation where some animals, their cells are mutating. And if the animal can survive with those mutations, it will carry on. And some animals will die from them. It just depends on the mutation. It depends on how much radiation, all that other stuff. But if an animal survives, they go forward forever after with that radiated mutancy as part of their DNA. That's where it sits. And some will die, some will carry on. And over time, it will, we'll start to see differences in how they look, how they behave, and whatever. And it's like, this has been happening for billions of years, and it's so slow we don't normally see it. Chernobyl has given us a chance to see it quickly. And we can see it. People go, oh, I see what's happening. I just saw an article the other day about the dogs of Chernobyl are actually changing their nature, because their cells have been changed by radiation. That kind of change is it is ever present. It has been from the beginning of the universe. That's the force. The movement of energy through all these systems is what allows evolution to occur, and has come to the point where we've created humans, or humans have been created.
Wow. Okay, now I have three thoughts. One of them is silly, but
silly.
Because I was just like, in a way, we're all mutants. But anyways.
Yes, we are. We are. And some of us are more mutant than others.
Oh my gosh. That's like so crazy to think about. But okay, so then it was making me think, so I was thinking about my other two things. One was, I feel like then our how do I want to say this? So I think history is then the point in which we use to evolve, that I think that we have, you know what I mean, besides like other animals, because you
Okay, okay,
can't
okay,
really
okay.
evolve and create without knowing the history that it came from, and then also knowing like, oh, this is new. Like, how do you know that it's new? You have prior knowledge and history
Mm-hmm.
to know that this is a new concept.
Yeah.
So I think, like, in a sense, maybe even like what makes us so able to evolve, I think, and have that choice of evolution as well. And what I guess is a good note for, oh, how far are we moving is history, right?
Right.
Mm.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. I think it's very interesting the way this has actually unfolded with humans is because when humans, they kind of emerged, the Homo sapiens species emerged about 200,000 years ago. And it was only about 10,000 years ago that humans began to speak, like be able to communicate ideas back and forth. So that's 190,000 years where they were evolving, but it wasn't really, to the point of organization, let's just say kind of human ideas organization. But at some point, humans did. They began to think, they began to like, and I use this example in my book, like you you don't know, like you see this big yellow thing up above you, and you don't know what it is. And it's a thing that is there every day. And people are like, well, what is that? Well, we gave it the name, like somebody says, okay, I'm going to give that thing the name sun. And
Mm.
sun, that word sun means nothing. It's just a bunch of sounds put together. But if you and I both agree that the sun, that word sun, means that thing up in the sky, then we've created language. And now we can communicate. And here's the thing, it doesn't stop with just language. We learn, oh, well, when the sun's not there, it's dark. There's light and there's dark. It's cold and it's hot. It's, hey, why is there a sun anyway? We have all these thoughts that keep going. They don't stop. And what happened is we asked ourselves why we're here. And we started creating, like you say, history. We started creating stories. We have lore, we have religions, we have all these things trying to explain why are we here? Because we are the only species who are ability to think these thoughts. And so there they are, or that we know of.
Right.
Maybe dolphins can think these thoughts too, but it's not apparent to us that from their actions that they do. But in ours, yeah, we started inventing religions and we wrote Bibles and we did all kinds of other things. But it's only been in the last 100 years we've discovered the science of DNA and collaboration and some of these other things where we can be like, oh, now I know how we fit. So humans have been existing for 12,000 years without knowing how or why, the facts of that. And now the science caught up to us, and we're like, now we know, but we haven't put it together. Does
Mm.
that make sense?
It
To
it makes
look
sense
at
to
it that
me.
way? Yeah.
Mm.
I
I
think it
was
makes
thinking
more sense.
how I was seeing it was it kind of goes back to the original question actually about how even though humans came together and it's like, oh, we named this the sun. It's kind of more so we also had the same goal and the same intentions to really survive because I think that's also what animals do as well. Like think about animals that like herd together. If
Mm-hmm.
because even though they don't verbally speak like that we do, they have pheromones and all types of other things, so they all know
Mm-hmm.
what's a safe path to go
Mm-hmm.
or what is the like
Right.
common thing to do.
Right.
So I think that's also how we kind of can learn from nature itself is to figure out how to work together for the same goal
Right.
on
Well, I
a
think
larger scale.
yeah, I think it's actually, I think that's a good place where we start. But humans have the ability to choose. Animals cannot choose their instructions. So the only animals who live today are the ones who survived for billions of years. Their line goes back billions of years. And in their DNA rests their inherited ability to survive given the environment in which they live. So, but humans have come along and they can think, they can choose. So when you said a really important thing, you said humans all have the same goal. Well, humans can make ideas, and guess what? They don't have the same goals. They maybe started that way, but that's not where we are today. Because we can choose which ideas to implement and which ones to throw away, we have the ability to make our own goals. And everybody's responsibility is to make their own goals. And if we differ in our goals, we have conflict. And that's something that, if an animal's like, apes and stuff, they will fight over, the leadership of a tribe. And that makes sense because, again, in their inherited genetics, that's an important thing to, if you want your DNA to survive, you become the head of the tribe and you'll win. But we can do it for all kinds of reasons. We can say, oh, we don't like the color of your hair, or we don't like the fact that you live in this area, or whatever. We can make up our own ideas and then create our own goals that are completely not agreed upon by people. I mean, just look at communism and democracy. They are completely different goals of how to live together. And the democracy is is sort of based on the common good, and communism is based on the good of the state. Those are diametrically opposite, and that's why we don't agree on them. So humans are different in that animals will always just follow their instructions to survive, and they will do their best to do it. Humans can choose which instructions to follow. They have to make their own goals. They have to make their own rules, and then they have to act on them. And animals don't have to do any of that. They're born with their instructions. They just go live, so it's very, very different. And that's one of the key reasons why we are potentially the people who can implement our own extinction.
I was gonna ask Tyler. I know you disappeared for a second, and I also knew you had another question as well. If you wanted to throw that in.
Oh, yeah, I did. Okay, but I was gonna say my final thought that I had from earlier with this concept, I guess that we're kind of discussing. I feel like then it kind of comes into question, should we have stopped at bartering? And would that then be because
a better world if we stop there? Well, here's the thing: change never stops. It never stops. So that, I mean, if you look at it from the Big Bang, energy has been changing all the way through with time, and on this earth, it has created life. And we now, as humans, are creating artificial intelligence, which is basically taking intelligence outside of a body. That's interesting. I don't know where that's going exactly. And it could be really great, and it could be really bad, and could be, like most things, both,
Yeah.
but change change is never going to stop. So if your solution to a problem is let's not do this anymore, let's stop, let's ban this thing, AI or whatever, it's not going to happen, because humans everything is constantly moving forward and changing and evolving. And so is our human ecosystem, which is what I call the ideasphere. Our ideas are continuing to evolve, and they will continue to evolve as long as there are people, especially in our system where money is behind a lot of these things. The profit motive is huge at implementing ideas that will get more profit, right? Which is one of, I make a big point in my book about how profit maximization is actually a bad thing, not a good thing. And I'm an accountant and I have this economics background, but I'm like, I'm not buying this profit maximization thing. It is sending us in the wrong direction. So you can read about that, but if you're only motivated to make profit, the society will always suffer, is sort of what I've come to in my thinking.
I definitely agree with that, because I have the mindset of I don't need honestly, I don't care for money. I care enough just to survive, but after that I don't really care for money. But that's just how I work.
Right. Well, the thing is that's the human choice. That's what we've evolved to, is you get to choose. And we're in a system in which if our government, so let me go back a little bit. It is, again, in your body, you have these 35 trillion cells, and they're coordinated by your brain and your neural system, right? And there's 100 billion neurons up there making sure all the cells work together. Well, that equivalent in human society is called government. And when we choose a government, the government's job is to coordinate how we coexist together. Mm-hmm. And that's where we could learn from nature, because nature always makes sure that the cells get to do what they want to do their job, but they can't harm any other cells. So if we had a government in which the basic goal was that people get to do what they want because they're choosers, then they can do that, but they can't harm anybody in the meantime. So if you, Julian, say, what you're saying when you say, I don't really care about money, is what you're really saying is, my goal is something other than money. And that's your goal for you to figure out in your life. And my goal is different or the same or whatever. Each of us has the responsibility to figure out our goals and then figure out what actions we want to achieve those goals. And when we achieve them, that's when we find that happiness, because we're satisfied that we're doing the things that are important to us. Now, the problem is we're born with absolutely no ideas. And guess who puts ideas in our head, right? Parents, teachers, community members, priests, pastors, everybody who's involved in us puts ideas in our head, and then we're filled with all these ideas that aren't necessarily our own. And so the first job as adults that we have is to undo all that stuff and figure out what our goals are. And I think we sometimes don't even teach our young people that this is one of their jobs, is that you have to figure out which goals are right for you. You got this big group, but you don't have to take them all. You have to take the ones that are important to you. And then when you do that, you're on the way to a fulfilling life, because you're living life on your terms, the terms that are important to you. And that's what's really important, I think. And the government's job is to make sure that everybody gets to do that. And since we're born with no ideas, education is super important, right? We want to put as many good ideas into kids' heads as we can, and not just get them prepared for the workforce. That's part of the job of education. But what we're really trying to do with education is prepare them to be full members of the ideasphere, to be full members of the society in which they live, which means they need to have healthcare and housing and food and everything so that they can survive those things until they're adults in a good way, and they can maximize their choices and minimize the harm they do to others.
You said all that, and it kind of brought me to a different question of mine. Okay. Because it's more of a philosophical question. Just to hear your thoughts. Who do you think is freer, humans or animals?
Okay, well, it's a really great question. So we have to define what free is. So in one case, animals are born with all their instructions in place, and they just live. They don't have any doubts, and they don't have any thoughts about anything. They just do what they're instructed to do. But, animals do have, I know I have a dog, and she interacts with me, and she has feelings, and I can see she has all these things that are feelings. When I say she's reacting to her DNA instructions, she's not an automaton. My dog isn't an automaton. She has feelings, and she has, all these actions that she does. And she lives her life, that way. People have ideas. So we've created a whole new level of stuff to work through. And I would say that we have never been at the mercy of only nature for 12,000 years. We haven't. Everything we've really done is as an interdependent society in which we're all mutually dependent upon each other. That's probably not the definition of freedom, So I would say animals are wild animals. But look at, then we have cattle, and we kill them. We raise them and kill them and eat them. And that's like, they're evolutionary winners, but man, we do a horrible job on their life. They're not free. So The answer is really complicated, but I would say a wild animal is more subject to the whims of nature, and we are subject to the whims of each other as well as nature.
Okay, I like that. What about you, Tyler?
Man, I was gonna say those. I don't know. That might be too big brain for me. But I was like, I guess but also, like, the way you just described it made so much sense to me that I was just like, man, I really don't have any notes. Like, I really enjoyed it. Like, I was just like, wow, this is great. Because,
well, that's the thing. I make the full case in the book. So if you get a chance to read, even like the PDF I sent you, you can understand. I piece it together step by step, so you can get you can at least understand my reasoning for these things that I'm saying.
Yeah, but I feel like even like without it just makes sense to me personally. I don't know. I just feel like everything you said made sense but I guess I see people and animals also in that same aspect because I mean, like we have, I think, in a way, it's like that's why we have to write all these rights so people can obtain these freedoms. But then it's funny because these are freedoms that we should inherently have. So why do we have to have it written in black and white if it's something that's like it's like what we deem as known and right to our own freedoms is like always changing for some people in some aspects. Like even on like a human, even humans versus animals, I would say almost animals have more freedom in the sense that like with human beings, like at some point, I don't know, it was making me think now as I'm thinking about it, like women's rights. Like just because like, and we're getting all of these things kind of walked back, but it's kind of like those are inherent freedoms. Like the only reason we're talking about it is because we can have these thoughts and these things and these aspects. But like animals to a certain extent, like, they don't have to write down their freedoms. It's just, every animal knows like, okay, whatever they're doing doesn't bother what I'm doing.
Right.
And if it does, then I handle it.
I think you're making a really good point, and this goes back to my my original point about when humans first evolved, or when humans started thinking and writing things down. They developed very strong ideas about how things should be, and one of them was kind of might makes right. Right? Women were chattel. They didn't have any rights, and what's happened is these people for whatever reason they decided that it was right, it was correct, it was moral to have women be inferior to men because men were stronger. I don't know why, but they did. And that's followed us all the way through. And here we are, 12,000 years later, if you count from the time we started writing, or speaking. Here we are 12,000 years later, and we're still fighting women are still fighting for equality. And we're like, wow, what's wrong? And so the way I would look at it is I would say, well, what would nature do? And nature says, hey, if it doesn't harm anybody, that right should be maximized. Yeah. If you don't harm anybody, you get to do what you want. So women should have every single right that men do. People of all different races should have every single right that other ones do. That people, gay marriage, same thing. You're not harming anybody by marrying a person of the same sex, so go for it. Now, I would say on the other hand, if you have a gun, that has a potential to take a life. And so it should be regulated. So the way I would start with government, if you're going to do it the way nature would do it, you'd say, look, anything that's not going to harm anybody, go for it. No laws against those things. But anybody that's going to harm somebody must be regulated. Okay, so now you get into the sticky wicket of, what about drugs? I mean, is there a point where drugs don't harm you that you can say that's okay, but a point where too much of these drugs will kill you or kill somebody else? That's the hard job of government, to decide where those lines are so that we maximize people's freedom but minimize their harm. It has nothing to do with all this morality about, whose religion is right and whether women have a role or they should stay home or whatever. No, women get to do what they want, just like men can, as long as they're not harming anybody. So if a woman goes out and kills somebody, she's subject to the laws that say you can't kill somebody, just like a man. But if she's just going to go out and try to get a job and get the same pay as a man for that job, that's fine. You should be able to do that. So that's how I look at the way government should work. And when I look at it that way, I can just see the vast places where we just don't do it right, because I just don't think we see it right. If we saw it this way, we would make different decisions.
I completely agree with you on all of it, actually. And that kind of brings me to just back to my question and everything, and to how government works. I think it's because, well, let me slow down. To answer the I think animals are freer than humans, because humans, like you were saying, we have ideas, and I think we constrained ourselves to our ideas and our ideals. So where if someone doesn't follow our ideas or how we think the world should work, we want to change them in any way, shape or form, which then leads into the
conflict.
I'm like, yes, you're not harming me, but you aren't living the way I think you should live. So something needs to change. So I think that's kind of how that ties into everything.
Right. And see, and animals don't do that at all. It's like, hey, look, we're all little amoebas here. We're all eating and we're all just getting along. And that's, or not getting along, but we just go and do our own thing. But when we start saying, I have the idea and you must conform to my idea, that is a different way than saying, look, you can do what you want as long as you don't harm anybody. That's the way nature works. And a lot of people, I've heard this where they say, oh, love is the answer. We all have to love each other. Oh, that would be wonderful if we all loved each other. But reality, I don't think so. But what we can't do, you don't have to like each other, but you can't harm each other. If you work from the bottom and say, this is the bottom in which all people can agree, and this is where I say that's the one basic rule of life that we can get from nature, is that you can't harm each other. If you do, you're in a society that's not going to work.
That's so interesting. Okay, so this is bringing me an interesting thought, because now a lot of our conversations are, well, your thoughts are harmful because of it's going to push people into a certain degree where now it's like we can't even think without it turning into like then a law or like a movement of some sort, and then like all of a sudden it's taken these roots that you can't, I guess remove from. But so like I'm thinking about that concept in the sense where like I was thinking about, well, what if two animals had like different thoughts? And like, maybe other animals that they're communicating with have the same thoughts, but they're not like making, I don't know. It's very interesting. Like thinking about the movement and also like herd mentality and things like that being maybe more so not necessarily like the thought, but the way an idea can turn into an action is very different.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Because really animals, they have a range of actions with their instructions, right? They have a range of actions, but it's much limited compared to a human. A human has this wide range of actions, right? And I mean, if you look at your dog, like when I take my dog on a walk, we're like, okay, we'll go out. And if I say, let's go home, she will go one way home because that's the only way she knows. But I'm like, I can cut through this way. We can go this way. We can go around. But she only knows the one way because she doesn't know anymore about that. Or if I say, let's go on a walk, she can't turn around and tell me, well, I'd like to go down Elm Street and then Smith and then, no, she can't tell any of that. She's like, I get to go on a walk? Yes. That's it. That's all she can do. So it's the level at which humans can do these things that is so remarkable. And because we can choose all kinds of ideas, good or bad, right or wrong. And as long as we get people who follow our ideas, then our idea has legs. But I make this point in my book, if I decide to take out all the ads in the newspapers and on the TV and say 2 + 2 = 5, and nobody believes me, it doesn't matter. I have a bad idea. Nobody's going to buy it. But if I say, the election was rigged and there's no evidence that it was, I can get people to agree and I can create a force. So now we have a problem right now of disinformation where we have true statements and false statements being touted as true. And we have people who don't say, I don't care if it's false. I'm going to believe that anyway. I don't care if it's false. In fact, I'd prefer if it's false. I don't care. I'm just going to go with that anyway. And that's a problem we have to deal with. And I deal with this when I talk about social media. But what we've done with social media is we've turned what's been freedom of speech. We say freedom of speech, right? When you speak, you can go, if you're just speaking to somebody, right? In the old days when there was no technology, right? We spoke on a soapbox, right? Our words didn't go very far. But now today, just with what we're doing, we're putting our speech into tangible form. It's a thing. And that thing has a life of its own. Right. So even though it started as speech, it's now a thing that can be transferred. And as such, some of the things that are transferred can be harmful and some of them are not harmful. If I tell you, somebody on my Facebook that somebody should be, murdered, let's just say, or, that's harmful. And if I say my dog is cute, that's not harmful. But we have to figure out how to do those things, right? We have to figure out where the line is. Right. And so I put together and I say that one of the things to fight disinformation, since it's people want to choose and they want to say what they want, but it's all the harmful and non-harmful things are mixed up together, that people have to say whether their thing is true or it's an opinion or it's not true. And if that was the regulation, is that we are not going to make you not say things. We're going to make you tag your statement with an assessment of its truth. If you do that, then everybody has to own up to it. And then the regulations are related to, well, you said it was true when it wasn't. So, you get a warning and then you get thrown off, or if you say something's false and you say, it's just my opinion, everybody goes, oh, it's just their opinion, right? Maybe that's a start with how to deal with it, because you look at how this is a problem where animals don't have this problem at all, right? They don't have any false stuff in the animal world. It's all true. They don't deal with false. So they don't have this problem. So we have to kind of deal with this on our own. So that's one of the things where government has to say, is there harm? And if there's harm, what should we do about it? But what happens instead is the government gets bought off by all the big companies and they leave them unregulated and the harm occurs.
I guess it was also making me think about so from this concept of facts are facts, fiction are fiction, fiction is fiction, things like that. I feel like people feel like facts are more powerful than thoughts in a lot of ways. And so I'm wondering almost if that prioritization is what really has kind of structured where maybe where minds go now. Because it's I feel like there are times in life when you're okay, I have these thoughts and these ideas and things like that. And it's always cool. We can't, I guess also because it's funny, I always tie it to therapy, but in therapy, they always tell you any thoughts you have don't have to be don't have to be what your reality is. Just because you have a thought does not mean that it has to manifest itself. And so, I feel like in a lot of ways, because now it's oh, that's not a fact and that's not a fact. And even if it's opinion based, people take opinions as facts because then they feel like that has more power, making their opinion a fact, even though at the end of the day, it's just an opinion.
Right.
So,
Which is why identifying it is so important. Because if everybody understands that an opinion is not a fact, then when you read it, you say the election is rigged, and that's my opinion, it doesn't have as much weight as if you said it's a fact. And the thing is, facts are, the thing about facts is they're always provable and they're always the same. They're always right. Now, scientific facts are really interesting because scientists love to go around and people make discoveries and they like to go around and see if they can pound them down and disprove them, because then they won't be a fact anymore. And so science is great for trying to, nail down whether something is really true and whether it's a fact. But most of our stuff that we talk about is opinion. It's our facts are pretty rudimentary, right? Like I said, you could say, the person is this old. We have a lot of opinions, and opinions are important and thoughts are important, because how do you think you come up with new ideas or put together different disparate thoughts from different things? You go, I created a whole new theory out of a bunch of facts, but the facts are there, but the synthesis of those facts is very different. And that's an important thing in the world. And we want people to do that. We want people to think. We want them, but we want them to be able to distinguish between what is a fact, what is an opinion, what is a lie, what is a theory. Those are all things what's a belief? We should think about those things differently because they have different origins.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. I actually agree with you, because my little short thing is, I actually told a group of people that, and this is probably a nicer way of how I said it, but don't have your feelings become your facts. Like, keep them separate, because your feelings and your emotions and your thoughts could lead you into to believe something or anything, but it's still not based in the reality or truth that is
right.
What's actually going on.
That's interesting, because I think, and I don't know a lot. I didn't discuss emotions at all in my book because I was really working on the ideas. But if you look at animals, they have emotions. When I come home after a trip, my dog just jumps all over me and is so happy to see me, right? They have emotions. We all have emotions. I think what happens is emotions were our early brains. Before humans had brains, we used emotions as a survival technique, right? If fear is a good thing to keep you alive, if you see a tiger and you need to run, fear is a good thing to keep you going, right? So I think emotions were our earliest response to a survival mechanism. And we still have that survival mechanism, but now it's sitting next to a brain which can think a different way. So now we have two systems that are responding. They work differently, different parts of the brain, and they do different things, but they're both really useful. But what we don't do is understand, in my experience, when my brain turns on, or when my emotions turn on, my brain turns off. And it takes over, and I have to be really careful because it almost feels like they're two different sets of systems. And I like to keep the brain one working because my emotions can get me into bad places. But the emotions are there, and I have to acknowledge them and figure out how to live with them, because otherwise it'll fester. It won't, it won't settle down. And I think that's one of the things we need to understand is when you said, don't let your feelings become your facts, it's because you got two different parts of your brain working there. And you should acknowledge feelings, you should accept them, and then you have to decide, what am I going to do about that? And that's where the brain comes and helps and says, okay, I'll help you with what are you going to do about it? But you have to go do the feeling part and figure that out first.
You said that, and it actually made me think about the whole AI system, because we were technically making a third brain without the emotion attached to it.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I don't know what that is, but to me, if you're going to break AI, you should build in the prime directive, which is do no harm. That AI should be built in with a do no harm as its base. That no matter what it tells you to do or what it's going to do no harm has to be part of the base structure.
Absolutely. I agree 110%. Tyler, it sounded like you had something to say, or you were just agreeing?
I don't even remember now. It's okay. I just move with the conversation.
Nice.
Oh my gosh.
Look, I'm sorry, Tyler. I just wanted to bring that up because it came to my mind. I have so many other questions. We didn't hit any of the maybe one question that but I have a serious question and a silly question too. Like,
Okay.
how would
I like both of
you?
those. Go for it.
All right. Let's go with the sillier one for right now.
Okay.
So the question that I was thinking of was, which animal do you think should actually rule the planet? In the sense of, if especially if humans aren't around, because humans aren't the smartest. Well, debatable. They aren't the
Humans
fastest.
definitely
They
have
can't
the biggest
fly.
brains.
But we also get like outnumbered by like ants. Like I think it just off of random numbers. Like for every one human, there's like 100,000 ants. I don't know, but just like we. So
a lot. Yeah.
Exactly. Which animal, if humans weren't around, which one do you think should dominate the planet?
Well, I would love to answer that question, but I don't know enough about each of the animals to know which one would be the most capable. I know that the dolphin is the one with the next largest brain to body ratio. But I can't answer the question, but I would say that whichever animal evolves this way, I hope that they do a better job of complying with their natural history rather than just going on their own and creating all kinds of ideas, some folklore and origin stories that the best people could do when they didn't know anything. But I would hope maybe we'd be a little bit better. But we don't know. Like I said, we didn't really get this until we learned about cells and how they all work together. Like, oh, now it's kind of making sense about how this all works. Okay, that's a silly question.
Tyler, do you have the answer?
Yes, and it is silly. Okay, so I personally think bears. I really like bears actually. They go into hibernation. They kind of just eat, hang out. I like that. And then most times they really don't bother anybody unless they're being bothered. I feel generally, from what I know about bears, if they were a part of our, society, I think they would be cool with me if I was just like, I'm a homebody, I hang out, I do this thing. They're like, amazing. I'm gonna eat some fish and I'm gonna go take a nap. And I'm like, amazing.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like it. I like that perspective. Do you know, I read something about early man, before when they were, for thousands of years, they lived in small tribes. And they said it only took them about 4 hours a day to get all the food they needed. And then they just sat around and did stuff. Yeah. And so I'm like, that's kind of cool.
Kind of the right idea.
Where did we go wrong?
Exactly.
Oh, that's actually really funny. For me, with no knowledge of any animal, I'm just going off a stereotype. I would say it should be the owl.
The owl.
The owl,
I like it
because it can. Again, going off the I guess folklore of owls being real wise and everything. So then and they can fly, so they can travel different areas and everything. They're nocturnal, so they don't really have to mess so much with the day. I don't know. I'll just say owl, just because there's no real super scientific.
I don't think anybody can prove their point here.
I told you it was a question.
No, I like it. I like to think outside the box. That's good.
That was very fun. That was a good one.
Yeah. Do you want the non-serious question too? I know this is roughly the time.
You could do whatever you want. It's your show.
You sure? I just want to be respectful of your time.
Sure, go for it.
All right. So the other question that I had was, do you think humans are stopping other animals from evolving?
That's a good question. Well, in the sense that we kill a bunch of them and have driven many of them to extinction, yes. But no, but as far as that's concerned, that's kind of a black and white. But nobody, even humans, can't stop evolution. So if an animal survives us, they're evolving on their own path with their own environment, and they're going to do it. And some, animals may evolve into forms that become that could rival humans in some ways, but I don't think that's really going to happen because humans have just dominated the environment in which we live. But they won't stop animals from evolving. I mean, look at the pandemic. COVID was a virus that grew and had 7 billion hosts to feed off of, and look how it grew, and it has mutated, and it's done all those things. That's what cells do. That's what they do. So that's an example of us not being able to control evolution of any other being.
I feel like in a way we have though, but I think of it more from the aspect of like domesticated animals because like our pets, like, you can spay and neuter them. Like there's breeding because people want certain types of dogs and things like that.
Good point.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and then we also talk about how like with cats, it's kind of funny because it also makes me think of that narrative when people are like, oh, I like dogs more because cats are just unruly and things like that. But then it's kind of funny where people will talk about and now mind you, I don't know how fully true this is because I've never like fact checked it fully, but I'm pretty sure they were talking about how domesticated cats evolved from like wild cats. And so it's like there's an innate sense in them to just do what they want to do, but it's because we've basically kind of shifted their evolution from more wild animal into a tamed house cat. So
right, and yeah, that's true. We breed all kinds of flowers and all kinds of things, so we definitely affect evolution. Will we stop it? No. We can change it all over the place. Yes, we do. Look at what we're doing is going in and actually changing the DNA, of an organism. So yeah, we're making all kinds of changes, but and we can do that. We have the ability to do that. But can we change or stop evolution in other animals? Not overall. Maybe here and there we can affect them, but I don't think we can. There are too many species, and it's a big old world out there. And like I said, that we have a blunt force where we kill them, and that may be the most effective thing we have. And it's not necessarily a good one, but that's what we do sometimes.
Yeah. I was going to say my original answer was going to be yes, we have stopped it or hinder it because we've shaped the land so much to where, and of course with the endangered species list, killing off a whole bunch of species and everything. But when you put it in the sense of no, we don't change it, we just affect it, I think that's a more accurate statement because like how we have, I think it was like they genetically modified a goat to make spider silk. So I think we definitely alter evolution in to our benefit, or in just a strange way that probably would not have happened.
I just recently saw that they like evolved a mosquito to not be able to like suck blood from a human. That was pretty wild. But you have to be careful when you see stuff like that nowadays because it's like I don't know if I looked at AI or not.
Is that true or not? I mean, it's true. I have to before I believe anything, I have to read it in 3 different sources. And if I go and I look up something, I think that looks kind of weird. I go look it up elsewhere, or I Google it this way, or I Google it that way. And if I can't see it someplace else, I'm not buying. I'm just not going to buy.
That's fair.
That's a really good method. But I think that is all the time we've asked, and then some for sure.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Annie, for just being here, having this conversation with us. I forgot to mention earlier that I loved your quotes
My quote
background.
wall. Yeah.
Your quote. But yes, the floor is yours. You're free to say anything you want. Share anything you want.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for having me as a guest, and the conversation was just delightful. I like your questions. I like your perspectives. I like how you just think about things from a different way, and that's so helpful to somebody like me who tends to think of things one way. When I hear people put things in different different forms, it really helps me to widen my perspective. So I really appreciate that. And the book is out. It's called The Human Idea. You can get it anywhere. Hopefully, it'll start to get into libraries. I don't know when that will actually happen. It takes a while. It is also on Amazon. But the best place that has a discount is like Bank of Books or bookshop.org. Usually has them discounted, so you might get a better price. Because that's the one thing. Normally with my other books, I just self-publish because I have all the freedom to price it the way I want, and my prices are way lower than this one. So I'm like, this is the one thing I'm disappointed is because I want my book to be accessible to people, which means it should be affordable. It's a little more expensive than I would like, but I hope that people will get a chance to look at it, and I hope these ideas are things that will spread and make the world a better place.
Do you have a website or anything for your book too? Or
I do. It's called thehumanidea.com. You can look at it there. I haven't updated it because I've been kind of busy the last few weeks, but I will update it. And it's got all my stuff, got some videos on there. And I do have a YouTube channel where I talk about the human idea. It's called the Human Idea Sphere. And it is every week, I try to put up a little 3 or 4 minute, next chapter. I mean, it'll take me 500 years, but I will get through the book. But but people can go look. There's a lot of the chapters, and you can kind of see where I start. I start from the Big Bang. I start way back at the beginning, and I haven't even I just finally got to life this last week. So it's going to be slow, but those are things that I would love people to check it out. And mostly I would love people, if they like this idea, it's an easy one to remember. Just do no harm and maximize your choices. You get to do what you want. Just don't harm anybody. I think that leads to a happy life.
No, that's really wonderful to hear that you're always trying to make the be affordable for everything. I know Tyler was saying that was nice before I cut her off just a little bit.
Yeah.
but yes, no, definitely say go check out her book, because even the little snippet that I had interests me. I will probably bring it up to my book club just to see if we can get that. But
I would love that. That'd be fantastic.
But Tyler, you have the thing.
I know, the thing.
The thing. Oh, I'm so excited.
Well,
this is worth the wait.
My thing is always a journal prompt.
Okay.
And Julian's thing is normally a question. So it's kind of funny.
Quote.
Okay.
Oh yeah, quote. Oh my gosh. Anyways, I haven't done this in a while. Forgive me. But oh my gosh. Okay, so my journal prompt for this time is, what do you want your impact on society to be and why? And then almost to take it a step further, because I had recently watched this YouTube channel that was talking about understanding your why and that being the motivation for goals that you create. And, since we're in December, it's about to be the new year. People are thinking about like New Year's resolutions. I would challenge listeners and just anybody who comes across this, and even us on on this podcast ourselves, to just keep even challenge our whys. So we just kind of get a better understanding of what's motivating us, why is it motivating us, and is it doing harm?
Yeah, I would say that, since I was a kid, I wanted to know how humans fit in the world. From the minute I learned about evolution and I looked at people and I looked at animals, I was like, we don't fit. There's got to be a reason. There's got to be a way that we seamlessly fit in this world. And it took me 50 years to figure it out. And it was just honestly, for these 50 years, I just kept my eyes open and I kept this in the back of my brain and I kept bringing things forward. So when I figured it it hit me in different in these last few years, I was so shocked, but also so satisfied that I had an answer that made me feel good inside. So as far as what I want to do in the world is I want to share this insight because I think it makes sense. It is logical. It makes sense. You may not agree with it, but it's a way to it's a thing to consider. And I want people to just open their minds and consider it. And as far as my whys, I feel like this was the thing that I really wanted to do in my life that I finally did. I put it down into a form that that reflects my values, which was to know the truth as best as I could understand it. And to me, that's very satisfying. And it makes me feel like, oh, this is a thing I'm glad I did in my life.
Nice.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I have to mention, we didn't do it at the beginning of but don't forget to pay attention to all the other episodes. There is a scavenger hunt. That's all not enough questions related. So, be on the lookout. Let's keep your ears open. And I guess I'll, do my little send off by saying, don't forget to ask yourself, ask others, and never stop asking questions.
Right?
See you.
Okay. Thanks, you guys. I had a great time. Thank you so much.
If you enjoyed the episode, there are a couple of different ways to support our show. Leaving a review, following us on Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube, or even becoming a supporter on Patreon for $2 or $5 a month. There, you'll have access to never-before-released visual episodes, funny bloopers, polls, and you can even pose a question. The links can be found in the description. The easiest way to support us is by telling a friend. Thanks for listening.